Hello, today I'm going to demonstrate how to set up the HawkCam Pro for use with your personal computer on the same network, wireless network that the camera is set up for. The first step that you want to do is plug in the camera. Once the camera is plugged in, you need to wait 2 minutes for it to completely boot. It goes through its systems checks and so forth like that. So it takes a full 2 minutes. Once you have 2 minutes gone by, go to your computer. And then over on the right hand side, when you hover on to the right hand side of a Windows 8 computer, you'll see the settings come up. Go ahead and click on that. Click on your wireless, and you'll see that you have a new wireless connection possibility. This is the actual camera itself. In order to configure the camera, we need to get into it first. And you can do this either through your iPad, iPhone, Android, or if you have a computer connected wirelessly to your wireless network. If your computer is wired to your network, you're not going to be able to connect directly to the IP cam. You need to connect to it through a wireless device. It is not wired. So once we go ahead and click on that, we'll connect. Now you will get an error here that says the connection is limited, and the reason why it takes a little bit longer to connect to this network is it's trying to get to the internet and test it, but there is no internet access because it's just connecting to the camera itself. So you don't solve the issues or anything, just go ahead and hit close there. We're now connected to the wireless device. So now what we want to do is go down and open up an Internet Explorer browser. And the reason we want to open up Internet Explorer browser is because it's got all the plugins already loaded. So when we're into Internet Explorer, you want to navigate to 192.168.234.1. Now this is the default IP address that comes onto the device. So when you connect to it, first time you connect, I'm going to go ahead and log out because I've connected to multiple cameras on my network, and when you go to connect, it's going to actually come up with this screen here, and you'll want to put admin, and then you want to put the default password of admin there. Go ahead and select the language and the main flow. Main flow is fine. Now you'll also want to log in. Do not, at this first time, do not check the auto login, but we'll go ahead and log in. You'll probably get an error that pops up saying you need to install the player. Well, what you want to do is you want to come up here, hover over the download player and click the download, and then you want to save or open. Open is fine and just run the program from there, or save it to your desktop and then run it. Either way, once you get that done, you want to log out. And when you log out and go back in after installing the player, you'll want to sign back in with admin. And then at this point in time, you can go ahead and hit the auto login, and that will log you in automatically into the camera. Now notice that my camera is upside down. I also have my normal home entry camera set up right next to this one. I'll demonstrate that a little bit later. So what you want to do when it's upside down like this is over here on the right hand side, you'll see it says flip and mirror. So first we're going to flip the camera over if it's upside down, and then this is actually backwards from what the camera should be seeing. So I'm going to go ahead and mirror it, and now this is oriented the correct way. In your configuration here, you'll want to set up the power frequency to 60 Hertz if you're on the US power grid, and the scene auto for indoor or outdoor is fine. I don't mind the auto day and night and so forth. So we'll just leave all of that there. We'll hit the refresh button and it all comes back. The next step that you want to do is go over to parameters. And when you get into parameters, you want to go to the Wi-Fi setting. And when you're in the Wi-Fi setting, you want to select the Wi-Fi that you're going to connect this camera to. And then down here, you're going to want to type in whatever passwords or authentication or whatever you have set up for joining that network. So we'll go ahead and type in the password. You can show the password to make sure that you typed it right. I highly, highly recommend that you do the show password, because if you get it wrong, you'll have to reset the camera. And to reset the camera, you want the camera to be powered on, and then on the back, in the middle, toward the middle I should say, is a hole that says reset. You need to hold that in for 2 full minutes. And when you hold it in for 2 full minutes, you'll hear 2 clicks in about 1.5 minutes into holding it for 2 minutes, and it will go ahead and factory default the camera. Okay, so here we're going to go ahead and hit apply. Now, we have now lost connection to the camera because it cannot be both providing internet or Wi-Fi service and joining a Wi-Fi service. It can only do one at a time. So if we go back over here and look at our network settings, you'll see now that the IP cam has disappeared, and we need your computer should automatically reconnect to the network that you normally connect to. Now, eventually this will time out and you won't see anything in the middle. It'll say we cannot establish connection. Right now we're seeing what is cached in our browser for now. So we're going to go ahead and just reduce this down. Actually, before we do this, before we reduce it down, we're waiting for the camera to reboot. It'll take about 2 minutes, but in the meantime you can go out to Falcon Watch Cam, and if you actually type in up here Falcon Watch Cam /support1, or you could type in support.falconwatchcam.com. So when you get to this page here, just go ahead and click on the P2P Windows software and install it, and we'll go from there. Once you install that program and download it to your desktop, it will put this icon here on your desktop, and we'll double click that and we will let it run. Now you might have more windows show up here. That's okay. You can change how many channels you see. You can see up to 64 different cameras, or all the way down to just the one camera that you have there, but we'll go to the 4 channels here just for the demonstration purposes. So I've got the home camera already installed here, but we're going to install the one that we just set up. So to do that, you want to go over to the device set, click on that, and we want to add a camera. And in here we will name this home demo. Now, you don't want to put in the IP address, because when you joined your Wi-Fi network, it may or may not have been automatically assigned, and we don't know what number that might have been. So in here we want to put in our default user and password. We want to make sure that this is checked at H264. You want to make sure that it's P2P, that's point to point. And then we want to go in and put in the device's ID. You'll find the device ID on a gray sticker that is on the right side of the camera's box. It is also the same sticker that is on the back of the camera. At the very bottom of that sticker, the very last line of everything, there is a string of letters and numbers. For the one that we just set up, that is HDXA and we will hit OK. Well, now that we've got our home entry and we've got our home demo, we're now done, and we can close this screen. You'll notice now that the home demo is over here. It's under P2P is how we're managing it and so forth. And what you want to do is you want to just left click, grab it, and drag it to whichever window you want that camera to show up in. So we'll put it over here on this one. And you might see that it comes up and says invalid ID. That's okay. Go ahead and close the program down and then restart it. And now you see that the camera has come up. It's over here on the right hand side. Two different views of the camera. Now, a couple things that you can do from here. Everything you need is now set up. You can listen to what is happening through the camera, and you can hear my voice going from where I'm at into the other room and then back. You can, if you have a microphone attached to the camera, you can hear it coming through on the other end. We'll turn that off. You can take a snapshot, and that just took a snapshot of this scene, or you could start the recording right from here. And then to stop recording, just click there. Double click the screen to make it wider and take up the full screen. So we're going to go ahead and work with this for now. Now, over on the left hand side, the next thing you want to do is double click the home demo. And when you double click it from here, now you're going to be able to find and configure many of the things of the camera that you want to configure. So now we come in and we take a look. We've got the base information, we got time and date, and we can change the time and date to, I'm currently in the Mountain Time Zone. We can synchronize with the network time server, or we can synchronize with the PC's time. So I like to synchronize with my PC's time. Hit the settings there, and that will then change the screen to the right time and date. And now we see the network IP address that it has. If there's an SD card into the device, you can see it here, whether you want to overwrite the files, format the card, timer record. When you click on the timer record, it'll put down when you want to record or not record. You can set it for constant record or not. User passwords, this is where you'd go and change your admin passwords, your visitor passwords, and your operator passwords. Email. Here's where you could configure your email for alerts to be sent to. If you have one of the popular ones like Yahoo or Gmail or any of those, then you can configure them right here. So let's go ahead and say we have a Gmail account. It automatically, as you notice here, filled out the correct information. The only thing that you need to do is put in the username, which would be your name at gmail.com, your password, and then who you would be sending these to. So you can put up to 4 different people, and then if you want, you can set automated uploads so that it's constantly sending you snapshots of what the camera is seeing. That might get annoying though. FTP settings, that's if you want to send uploads to the cloud, whether it's snapshots or videos. If you have your own dynamic domain name service, which most people do not, but if you do, you could actually go in and configure your domain and then be able to log into your network from anywhere in the world. Pan, tilt, zoom. This is a wide angle fixed lens camera. It does not pan from side to side, and it does not tilt from up and down. Alarms. This is where you could trigger the alarm by detection, and you will put in the sensitivity on the values that you want to set there, how sensitive you want the alarm to be triggered by motion. You can have an external trigger, so you'd set that. Alarm audio sensitivity, you want to put that to where it makes the most sense if you want it to be triggered on audio. You don't need to configure any of this, because this is if you had multiple different positions that you wanted the alarm to move the camera to and in order to take a picture. If you have an external siren, you might want to go ahead and hook that up here to the output level. If you want to send the alarm notifications, you can. Upload an image when it alarms. You can upload an image. And in here, you can set this for various different intervals of seconds. You know, every 5 seconds, you want another image to be sent up to wherever you're storing this at. Now, alarm activation period, you could do by schedule. That's the schedule down here, 24/7. Or you can select none and say, I just want it to be these times here that I want it to alarm on. It'll ignore everything else. And then your Wi-Fi, here's where you can go in and change your Wi-Fi. So now that we know what the network is, and the IP address is the 192.168.168, we can now go back into our browser here and put the 1.68 and get into even more configurations. So here we are. We will go ahead and do the admin, and we'll do the admin again. We'll do the auto logon. Now, when you downloaded the player from before, this is the application that it wants to run. You have to tell it to allow it to run that application. So we'll put in the admin, do our auto login, and we will log into our camera. And now we're at our camera. Couple things to know about how to configure this from the PC. Up here, start recording, stop recording, take a snapshot, save it. When you do the recording, if you choose to do this, then it'll come up and ask you where you want to save it to. You can save it right to the desktop. You'll see that it's red, it's recording. Okay, if you want to talk to it, we went through these before, but you can talk to the camera. You can listen to what's being said on the other end of the camera. This is the home display. You can control how much brightness the camera has, the contrast that it has, the sharpness that it has, and so forth. So you can pick and choose how exactly you want the camera to be depending on your preferences and the room that it's set up in. Okay, again, pan, tilt, and zoom are not part of this particular camera, so we'll go past that. We'll come back to replay and media. Want to go over to system. Now in the system, this is where you will change how you log into the camera through a web browser. So you want to change the admin and the guest passwords here. Time setting, we already went through this once before, but in here you could also go through sync with the network time protocol, sync with computer time, daylight savings time, do you observe it, yes or no, and auto update time. I always like to sync with the computer that I have on the local network, so we'll apply that. If you want to reboot the camera, factory default it, back up its data, so you can go back and restore it. If you've somehow got it misconfigured or whatever, you could back it up and then restore it. The device info, this is just the information about the camera itself, what versions and so forth, what your IP address is and all that. Local storage is the onboard storage. I do not have any in storage on this particular one, but let me go back over to here and I will navigate to the one that I have on my home entryway and give you a bit of a peek at that. So the local storage in here, you can browse, and when you browse it has all the various different files, the dates, the times, how much is in there, and so forth. So anyway, that's where you could go through and take a look. And if I clicked on that and then clicked on the images, these are the various different images throughout the day, and you can go down through those that way. That's one way of looking at your videos and your pictures that are on the camera itself. I already showed you that you can save pictures and video to your computer itself, and then in a minute we'll get to the FTP upload and so on. System log, in here you could change this back to, let me get back to our camera. So the system log, in here you can go and do a search. There is no events yet for this one, so you won't see a whole lot. Modifying time and so forth. Yep, okay. We did do that. So the next parameter here is through the parameters. IP settings, we're doing the dynamic IP. That's fine. We don't need to change anything here now. We went through and we looked on the monitoring app how to go ahead and turn on your provider and your usernames, your domains, and so forth if you have dynamic DNS and an account there. It's not necessary, but if you have one, makes it a little bit easier to name everything. In here, this is not as efficient in setting up your email because, as we saw before, we had a drop down that we could pick Gmail and some of the popular email configuration providers, and you'd have to know what port number to set up, whether you're doing secure socket layer or authentication or whatever. The Wi-Fi, we kind of went through that on the monitoring, but you could also go in here and search for new Wi-Fi if you wanted to and connect to it. The P2P, this is an important piece. Over on the system side, I showed you where you changed your password for logging in with the computer. This P2P is how you log in with your iPhone, iPad, or Android device. And this is where you would change that password. Now, FTP is File Transfer Protocol, and this is how you can, if you have cloud storage, you can upload it to your cloud server, the snapshots and the recordings. In here, motion detect is a little bit easier to configure. In here, we would go ahead and enable it, and then we would clean all. And you would maybe, if you have a window and you want to say, I don't want the breeze that blows the branches around, I don't want them to trigger my camera. So you could outline the various different things that you don't want to have triggering your camera. Sensibility. For everything else outside of these areas here, you want to set your sensitivity. Very high, normal, low. Remember, your sensitivity can be triggered for things as small as maybe a mouse running across the floor. If you set this up in a warehouse and you're watching over your stuff, you're getting a whole bunch of triggers. It might be because the camera is detecting a mouse running. Over here in my house, you'll see that there is a heater vent right here that blows the leaves a little bit. So yes, it can trigger blowing of the leaves. Now, what do you do when the camera triggers? Well, we can send an email. We can alarm with the snapshot, and if it does that, you want to say you want to send it to an email or upload it to the FTP site, or you can do both. You can trigger alarm output so that it triggers a siren or some other device. And then in here you can have different schedules for your camera. On the weekend when you're home, you might have one schedule, and on the work mode you have work days and weekends. You want to set up different times. So maybe on the weekends when you're home, you only want this thing to trigger when you're asleep at night. But during the work day, you might want it to be triggering during the normal daylight. So in here, you'd go in and set it up as to when you want it to turn on, when you want it to turn off. And there's 15-minute increments on those. And you have 3 different time periods. So maybe in the morning, not at lunch, in the afternoon. Okay. And then always, this would be the time for always being on and off. Week mode, you could actually, if you needed to, set up various different days, and maybe Saturdays and Fridays are your day off. So you'd set up different times there and so forth. Anyway, you can play around with this. It's pretty cool. Occlusion detect. Occlusion detect is if something blocks the camera from its normal view, it's going to alarm. So it'll send you an alarm saying, hey, something's blocking my camera. So you can have that tell you when that happens. Alarms in and out. This is what I was talking about, whether you trigger a siren or a siren triggers the camera. You can have that set up in here. Send an email alarm with a snapshot, trigger an alarm output, and so on and so forth. And then you could choose the various different week modes and so forth like that, and have it set up in here too. Alarm out, whether you want to alarm and do that, you can either do an open or a grounded, and then you'd want to tell it how long you want to trigger that alarm for. Snapshots. If you want to enable taking the snapshot, you would enable it, and then it's going to ask you for the interval. You can have this thing send you a snapshot every 60 minutes or every day at 3 o'clock or whatever. You can have it emailed to you, or you can have it sent. And of course, the email settings, go back to the email. Alarm snapshot. This is set up no matter what, whether it's alarmed or it's not alarmed. Down here is when it's alarmed because of motion detect or something else. You can have a snapshot taken every 1 to 30 seconds, and it can work, and it will go for 30 seconds. So if you have 30 seconds here, you'll only get 1 snapshot. If you have 2 and 30, you'll get 15 snapshots. And then the quality and so forth. This is on the alarm, what it's sending to your phone or to your email. I'm sure you don't want to have hundreds and hundreds of emails coming to you. You only want those that are being triggered by an alarm. So maybe one every 5 to 10 seconds, and then for 30 seconds. Recording, same thing. Manually record, timer record. When you do the timer record, you can set up the timer down here too. Same basic philosophy on the timer setup. File time. You can go in and set it to record for 300 seconds, which is 5 minutes, or 10 minutes. When it's triggered, it's going to record for that amount of time, and it's going to record either your main flow or your minor flow. Privacy mask. Let's say, for instance, you have this set up at a corporate location. Oh, there's the dog sitting by the door. Corporate location, and you have right here next to the door a little keypad that you don't want people to be able to see. Click on region 1, move that box up there to cover up the keypad, and it will not record, or it'll actually have like a mask over top of that. And you can adjust it, let's say for instance it's close to a restroom or something, and you just want to mask that piece of it. Well, you can do that too. So you can rearrange and change the size of the mask. Probably not needed for most people. So we'll put it down here to the side, and we'll just go ahead and take that off. And that's the parameters. Next is the media. Now your main flow is a 1280 by 720 high definition flow. You can set it just a little bit more or a little bit less so that it doesn't take up as much bandwidth, or if you have a smaller screen, that type of a thing. You can change your bit rate here as to how much bandwidth it's going to take up, maximum frame rate. Obviously, the more frames per sample, the higher the quality. You can do a constant bit rate, variable bit rate. All of this is all about network and so forth. So I'm not going to get too much into that. Down here is your substream, same thing, a little different resolution. This is for like your tablets and so forth. And then if you have your mobile devices down here, you'll want to have this set up for, mobile device. Also, you want to make sure that you format this the right way. And NTSC is US standard, PAL is Russia and China and some other parts of the world and so forth. So I'm not going to go ahead and reboot the device right now, but audio, please don't mess with this. The audio is optimized, nothing really there. Now the WDR is the dynamic range of your actual camera. So let's say, for instance, you have some light spots and some dark spots. If you look at the home display, there's some dark spots over here and there's some light spots over here. The WDR comes into play when you want to kind of balance that out. You notice how it kind of brightened this up over here. Now you can kind of see. So if you got it in a really, really dark space, a den or a theater room or something like that, you might want to play with that a little bit more to get it to where it looks the best for you. Maybe the mid display would be the best for this one here. Yeah, a little bit better. A little grainy over here on the side though, because it's enhancing it artificially. So we'll go back to the image, and if we turn this off, then go back to the home, and you can see how dark this is, and you can't see what's in this area. On screen display, this is the timestamp. You can take that off of your display if you don't care to have it on there. The camera name, which is over here, you can have that taken off, and then you can actually change the camera name here. So we want to do the home demo here, and we'll hit apply. And now when we go back up here, kind of got to wait till it actually applies. And now you see that it's off the screen here, and if we go back into the main display, you'll see that it's off here. I don't really recommend this, because if you had somebody break into your home or office or something like that, it'd be nice to have the timestamp and which camera it was, especially if you have multiple cameras. So I recommend putting that back on, and then I changed before it saved the time before. So we'll go ahead and apply the changes this time again and wait for it to actually come up. Now you see it's home demo. Pan, tilt, zoom. Again, this is a fixed lens camera, so this is not something that you want to go in and mess with, because it's not going to do anything for you. So that's the media. Under the replay, In here, we'll go ahead and hit the refresh. You'll notice that nothing comes up. On our camera over here that I have previously set up that watches my front door, when we hit the refresh here, you'll see that we have various different incidents that have happened, and the recordings have taken place here. So we could replay those if we would like to. Okay, so that's the replay. So that's basically the camera, how to work it, how to operate it. This is through the web browser. Once you have it set up through the web browser, you won't need that all the time. You'll probably use more of the monitor app, even if it's this way. Okay, so now you see both cameras side by side. One thing I like to do now that I know that the network IP address is there, is I do like to go back in, and when I go to the home demo, I'll modify it, and then I will take off this piece here, and I will put the actual IP address in there. I will turn the P2P back on, but now I know that I've saved that IP address in there. We'll go ahead and close that out. Throw that back up over there again. And that's how you set up the HawkCam Pro. A couple other things I want to point out here on this demo here. We've already talked about the flip and so forth. So let's go ahead and select this camera by clicking on it. You can notice there's a little red thing that comes around it. When I click over here, the red goes over here, and there's no more red around here. So let's go ahead and configure this one here. And we can flip it. And we can flip it. Okay, so now that's set up the right way. We can talk to the dog. Rocky. Hello, hello. Hello. Hello, hello. Hello. So in here, we can listen to what's being said. You can barely hear it because it's going past, 2 rooms away. We can also talk to the other end. So you could hear it coming through when you talked on that end as to how loud it was, and you could hear what was being said over there. But if you just do the speaker, it's 2 rooms away. It's not good. All right. We already talked about recording from here, so now it's recording. We stop the recording. Take a snapshot. All right. The couple other things that we can do here with this is under the screen, we can change how many screens we want to watch, whether we want to go all the way up to 64 different screens or down to just the 4 screens. The warning window down here. I like to watch the warning window down here because it tells me when it's connected and so forth, and it'll tell you which the device ID and so on. So you can kind of watch to make sure that the device is connected and so forth. Over here, about this application and so forth, not a whole lot that you need to know there. Under system, this is where you'll want to come in and set this up. So we'll do the system set. You can also get to it down here, either one. But we'll do the system set, and here's where you want to define the folder that you want to save your pictures to and the folder where you want to save your videos to. So you'd hit select and you would go through your file strings and so forth as to where to select to save them to. You can do tiled images, the draw mode, and so forth, the recording file time, and all that. How you set up whether you come up with 4 of these screens or 64 screens when you start the monitor app is to select it here. Okay, so you come up with just the one if that's all you got is the one camera, or you can come up with multiples. And then the English and so forth. You want to auto start the video. You don't necessarily want to auto start the record, otherwise it will record all the time to wherever you defined it to record to. And then you just hit OK. That's how to use the HawkCam Pro in your home or office.